Now before we start breaking down all the action from the Snowball Derby, let me tell you about my sponsor, Hunt to Harvest. Now we got Christmas coming up here in a couple weeks, and if you're still trying to get some of that last minute Christmas shopping knocked out, head over to hunttoharvest.com, where they have a wide selection of hunter apparel for both men and women in shirts, long sleeve, short sleeve, as well as they have a new selection of hats to decide from, and you can also find some stocking stuffers and specialty gifts for whatever you're needing on your Christmas list. That's hunttoharvest.com. hunttoharvest.com. And before you check out, be sure to enter that promo code RADNEY18923. That's RADNEY 18923, and you can find all the links and information in the description below. So this past weekend, I was fortunate enough to attend my first Snowball Derby, both as a fan and a member of the media, and this is a race that's been on my checklist. I've always wanted to go down and see the Snowball Derby just because you have a lot of drivers from the NASCAR world come and make appearances at this race, as well as all the big names of the super late model world. And if you have not been to an event at Five Flag Speedway, whether it's the Snowball Derby or any other series that comes through there, I highly recommend going and checking out one of these races. They host the ARCA East Menard Series in the spring, as well as the new Stars National Tour, which kind of has taken the place of the ASA Racing Series. They'll be kicking off their season in March as well. But the Snowball Derby, it is like their Daytona 500. When I got there about an hour after gates open, it had a completely different feel from when I was there in the summer at the SRX Series. While the SRX, they are a big series, they're a nationally televised company. Now they just signed a new deal with ESPN. It had a completely different feel from the Snowball Derby. You get there and it was just a feeling in the air. The fans are excited. The teams are ready to go, get on the track and start turning laps. It had a completely different feel. It's hard to describe unless you were there and experienced it yourself. But anyways, I get there, I immediately went to pit road, did a lap around pit road just to see where all the drivers' pit stalls were, the cars, kind of be able to recognize who's driving what. And immediately I saw drivers like Noah Gragson, Eric Jones, Bubba Pollard, Derek Kraus, several others that were hanging around their cars on pit road. And mainly if you have children, whether it's young kids, preteens, teenagers, and they are all about racing, whether it's NASCAR, the short track series, whatever the case may be, I highly recommend the pit passes. It is a great investment because you get down there amongst all these teams, the crews working and the drivers. Eric Jones was signing autographs, taking pictures with fans well before the race. Noah Gragson, he was signing autographs and taking pictures both pre-race and post-race, among with several others. So if you want to get down there and get in as close to the action as you can, a pit pass is very much worth the price. And coming into this race weekend, Derek Thorn, he is the big name around that track, around this race really, because the past few years he has been the dominant driver. Just this past Sunday, he led 307 of the 315 laps ran, and actually became the all-time laps leader in this race. And he never was able to put it together to get in victory lane, whether it's a late caution or pit problems, whatever the case may be. But he was finally able to get in victory lane. The fans were going crazy, and this was this team's last race running with Derek. And the owners, they're going into retirement, so this was a heck of a way to send them off. And you'll see through the clips, I cover everything from the driver introductions, cars getting lined up on the front straightaway, and action throughout the race. It was an incredible event. I'm very thankful that Five Flag Speedway allowed me the opportunity to come cover yet another race. I hope to cover another race out there within this next year, but we'll see how the schedule works out. So I hope y'all enjoy these clips and the commentary from the 55th running of the Snowball Derby. Now, one of the cool things to take in on the pre-race festivities is where the drivers bring out their cars one by one and line up in the starting grid. It gives fans just a little sample of the roar of the engines, and also getting a chance to see the drivers firsthand walking from their cars to the stage for pre-race driver introductions.
The number 43 of Derek Thorn. pre-race about how Ty Majeski for several years looked like the guy to beat, and he didn't win the Snowball Derby. Bubba Pollard could be the same case, went for a number of years. You've led so many laps, 90% of the laps over the last couple of years. You did end up in victory lane. Can we do it today?
I don't know, it just is what it is. You know, the biggest thing is just thanks to Byron and Carol Campbell for all they've done to give us the opportunity to come here for so many years. Mike and Vicky, Sal, Phil Pott, Adrian, all the guys that come out, Cooley that come out here that help us year after year, to help us be in front of a field as big as this. It's just awesome to be able to compete.
Wheelman in car number 43 from outside of row number 1, Derek Thorn.
And on the pole for the 55th annual Snowball Derby, with a qualifying time of 16.333. Driver of the Eye Racing Chevrolet, a 2019 Valley Star Credit Union champion from Statesville, North Carolina. The number 26, Josh Perry.
You don't get a chance to do a whole lot of super late model racing, but when you do, you want to make the most of it. And so far, I think you've done that this week.
Yeah, no, it's been a great experience. I just can't thank everybody at Rackley War and Willie Allen Racing, War Shocks, all our guys that work so hard to do this. This is a big deal. It's a tough race to come run. I know how these big races go for sure. So we gotta be smart.
What do you have to say about that?
we gotta be smart, be there at the end. A lot can happen in these races, so you just gotta have something to race with at the end. And you know, like my buddies always say, be fast when it matters.
Josh Derry, your pole sitter, and Bill Ross.
Now, once the driver introductions had gotten wrapped up, the drivers got strapped into their cars and the command was given to start their engines. Now, one tradition that I did not know about at this race is the lap before they take the green, the drivers will do one lap where the fans get to wave at the drivers and the drivers in turn will get to wave to the pit crews and the team members. It's a pretty cool tradition called the wave lap.
It's the wave lap here at Five Flags Speedway. Everybody now the excitement is in the air. We crown a winner. Someone will take home the prestigious Tom Dawson Trophy in just 300 laps.
And $35,000 tucked in that cup.
Now, the one driver I was looking forward to most seeing in this race was Josh Berry, and he was definitely the second best car in the field after he won the pole. He was the one driver who seemed like could keep up with Derek Thorn, at least stay within a car length or two of him. Unfortunately, he had a couple incidents towards the end of the race with Hunter Robbins of Pensacola, and that ultimately ended his day prematurely, which was a shame because that would have been an interesting battle with all the late restarts we had, and that took away to me the one main challenger of Derek Thorn. Now, the overwhelming fan favorite in this race, besides Derek Thorn, was absolutely Bubba Pollard. He got quite a reaction from the crowd during driver introductions, and he's won several track championships at Five Flags Speedway, and he's known across the country for being one of the top super late model drivers. Now, he had a top 3 car. I don't know if he had quite what he needed to compete against Derek Thorn or Josh Berry, but what really did him in was there at the end. So pit strategy got off. He was the oldest, the driver out there with the oldest tires, and that really set him back as far as the last run to the finish. And unfortunately to him and his fans, he was not able to get the finish in the Snowball Derby he was hoping. So he will be coming back next season, most likely, searching still for that first Snowball Derby trophy. Now, while Derek Thorn was the most dominant driver in the race, he still had to overcome plenty at the end of the race, as we had the race go 15 laps past the scheduled distance. So he had to overcome a couple of overtime restarts where he had Sammy Smith try to make a 3-wide move underneath him and Stephen Nash for the victory. Ultimately, Derek Thorn was able to hold them all off and get his first Snowball Derby victory.
Here he is.
Let me say a sentence you might like. Derek Thorn, Snowball Derby champion. How did that sound?
So like I said earlier, Derek Thorn was the dominant driver, finally able to get the deal done. While he was sitting there waiting in his car, just the emotions were coming, just overflowing on him. You had all the pit crews and other drivers lined up on pit wall just to see the celebration. You could tell how big of a deal it was for him and this team to win this race. So I was glad to be there and a part of this historic event and get to see a driver finally break through and get this win in such a huge race. So before we sign off, I got some updates on silly season. As I said in previous videos, the off season is when you really start seeing the moves being made in the Xfinity and the Truck Series. We had one big news break this past week where Derek Kraus, he will no longer be driving the 19 truck with MHR. That will now be being driven by Christian Eckes, who's making the move from Thor Sport Racing. And I was kind of surprised to see this move. I figured Derek would probably get at least one more year in the truck. He hasn't been one of the top drivers in the Truck Series, but he's been competitive. He's had good runs. But especially in his first, season or two, he seemed to really struggle with overdriving the car with over-aggressiveness. And unfortunately, his time with that team has come to an end. I'm sure he will land on his feet somewhere in the Truck Series. He does have some, great talent, and I think can be a winner and a playoff contender for this series. But now, Christian Eckes in that 19 truck, I expect it to be more competitive. Christian Eckes, I feel like, is kind of one of the underrated drivers in the Truck Series. He's had time with KBM, with Thor Sport, and had a good season last year with Thor Sport. So it'll be interesting to see how he does with that team starting next season. And that empty Thor Sport truck now, it is being rumored, nothing official yet, that ride will become Hailie Deegan's, which is another big surprise for me because I figured with her successful debut in the Xfinity Series late last season that she would be making the move to the Xfinity Series, at least in maybe that 07 or 08 car, which has affiliation with SHR. But it looks like she's going back to the trucks, at least with a top team like Thor Sport hopefully that brings her some better results. She'll be in the running for the top 10 and maybe can get a win or two before the next season's over. But all eyes are going to be on her as far as how she performs with this top-notch equipment. I feel like it's the best equipment she'll have so far in her NASCAR National Series runnings. So keep an eye on Hailie Deegan next year. It'll be interesting to see as things keep, as the dominoes keep falling for Stewart-Haas Racing, if she somehow fits into that fold, whether she'll make the move to Xfinity driving purely for SHR, maybe for one of their affiliates. And then staying with the Truck Series, you have Rajah Caruth, who has now been announced as a full-time driver for GMS next season in the Truck Series. This is going to be a guy that I'm looking forward to seeing run next year. He ran some Xfinity races, some truck races this past season. I think this is a guy coming up from the lower series that has a lot of promise. I hope to see him grow into the superstar I believe that he can be. And coming into a role and with a team like GMS, with a teammate like Grant Enfinger, I feel like that is the perfect landing spot for him to continue to further his career. And that will wrap up this YouTube video and wrap up our videos for 2022. I want to thank everyone for joining me, for watching along on YouTube, or for listening along on my podcast at anchor.fm/3wide3. Be sure to follow the links below to hunttoharvest.com, where you can wrap up your Christmas shopping by going to that website and looking through their selection of shirts and hats along with several other items. And I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And be on the lookout for me. Subscribe to this channel, because we will be kicking things back off towards the end of next January as we get ready to start the 2023 NASCAR season.